Hey guys, tonight we're setting off on a tale of reckless defiance, glinting sparks and eternal punishment. Close your eyes and picture it a lone figure silhouetted against a cold Olympus sky, his eyes burning brighter than the forge he's about to raid. You can smell the acrid smoke already, each curl of flame a promise of both warmth and wrath. But you probably won't survive this if you're hoping for a gentle bedtime story. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The scene crackles to life around you. There's Prometheus, whose very name means forethought, creeping through the hush of divine halls. Olympus isn't sleeping exactly, it never does. But the gods are heavy with the weight of their own importance, and that leaves a mortal's champion like Prometheus a brief shimmering chance. He knows the cost. He knows Zeus will roar with fury when he realizes what's been taken. Yet here he is, hand trembling but resolute, reaching for that sacred flickering thing, fire. It's not just a flame, you see. It's the god's power, life itself. Warmth, light, creation. The very breath of the forge. And in this quiet, forbidden moment you can almost hear it calling out to him. A trickle of sweat on your brow makes you shiver, not from cold, but from the weight of this moment. You know the heat of that flame will change the world, but you also know it will forge chains that echo forever. Historians still argue whether Prometheus truly stole the fire from the hearth of the gods, or simply brought forth a secret mortals had always had within them. But for tonight, let's embrace the most thrilling version, a daring theft in the moonlight, a titan's act of mercy and defiance all rolled into one. The ground beneath your feet is damp with mist. You tread carefully, feeling the crunch of pebbles that litter the path. Prometheus moves like a shadow, a wisp of intention slipping past the marble colonnades of Olympus. The smell of roasted meat still lingers from an earlier feast, one of those endless divine banquets where mortal hunger is but a rumour. Here in the great hall's glow he sees the hearth fire dancing. Orange embers glow like distant stars, and he can almost feel their warmth calling him closer. There's a moment, just a heartbeat, when he hesitates. The fire isn't his to take. But you're there with him, and you feel that same ache, the sense that this light belongs to all, not just the chosen few. A crackling pop snaps you back to the present. Prometheus stretches out his hand, and for a second you think he might pull back. But no, he's resolved. With a deft motion he lifts a slender reed from the hearth, the tip already alight. A stolen ember, small and defiant. You're not just watching. You're right there, feeling the heat singe your skin, the thrill of rebellion tingling in your fingertips. As he turns to leave, the night seems to hold its breath. Even the stars pause winking in silent witness. A god has been wronged, a mortal's champion has risen. And you're swept up in the heat of it all, heart pounding, eyes wide. In later retellings, some claim Prometheus didn't even need to sneak around. They say he simply asked Hephaestus, the forge smith of Olympus, for a tiny spark, and Hephaestus, forever sympathetic to those who worked with their hands, quietly passed it over. But you can almost taste the tension in the air tonight, and it's hard to believe anyone would help him so openly. No, this feels like theft in the truest sense. Fire is a birthright, yet here it's a crime. As Prometheus flees down the mountain paths, the night air grows colder, and you can feel each stone biting into your feet. He clutches the glowing reed to his chest like a child with a secret. The flickering light seems to cast both hope and doom across the rocky slopes. In the mortal valleys below, the world is asleep, unaware that everything is about to change. You pause to consider why risk everything for a spark. Prometheus wasn't just giving mortals the means to cook their food or warm their homes. He was giving them independence, power, the chance to forge, to shape, to build. A tiny flame that could become an inferno in mortal hands. And with that gift comes a burden, the weight of knowledge and consequence. There's a strange fringe tidbit I can't help but share here. Some say the first humans to receive this fire didn't even know what to do with it. They say it took a generation of trial and error, burned hands and failed sparks before they learned to tame it. Imagine that a god's gift flickering in trembling palms and no idea how to make it more than a brief bright glow. But tonight that first flicker is enough. The fire's been stolen. Prometheus has done it. And you're there, breathless, as the echo of his footsteps fades into the dark. The gods above are already stirring their slumber, troubled by a new light on the horizon. You can almost feel the thunderclouds gather. Zeus's eyes snap open in his great hall of storm and marble. Somewhere deep in the clouds, a lightning bolt crackles to life. He knows. Yet for this one quiet moment you let yourself bask in the warmth of that stolen ember. It's a fragile thing, but it's a promise too. A promise that no matter how bright Olympus burns, mortals will never be left in the dark again. You can almost taste the metal tang of destiny in the air. The night stretches on. The stars whisper of punishment and the price that must be paid. But for now, you're here where it all began, in the hush of a stolen spark, feeling the heat of rebellion on your face. The night is still young, but the spark in Prometheus's hand sets a world in motion. Down the mountain he goes, your footsteps echoing his, until the hush of the divine halls is replaced by the rugged silence of mortal valleys. There's no fanfare waiting at the bottom, no priests with flutes or kings with crowns, just dirt cold and the endless flicker of that precious flame. But Prometheus knows that warmth can turn to hubris, and a gift given by a titan can just as easily be stolen away by a god. He remembers the feast he once laid out for Zeus and the Olympians, a feast that was no feast at all. You're there too, peering over his shoulder as he remembers the bones glistening with fat, the lean meat, hidden beneath scraps of sinew and trickery. You see the table stretch out before you, laden with platters that gleam in the flickering light of that first defiant flame. Historians still argue whether it was Prometheus's intent to mock Zeus outright, or simply to test the king of the gods. But the laughter in his eyes that night tells you everything you need to know. Zeus, of course, saw through the ruse the moment the lid was lifted. His face darkened like a thunderhead, and the air grew thick and bitter with the scent of charred offerings. The feast was a lie, an insult, and Prometheus, ever the trickster, watched as the king of the gods chose the bones and fat, leaving the lean meat for mortals. A simple swap, but one that split the world in two, what the gods demanded, and what mortals would claim as their own. You can almost smell the charred smoke of that ancient feast drifting up to the stars. Your stomach grumbles at the thought of roasted meat, but in this moment the taste of rebellion is sharper. A single choice at the table, and the course of mortal fate was set. Prometheus, with his flickering flame and cunning grin, had set a new order in motion. But Zeus, furious at being played for a fool, didn't forget. You feel that chill in your bones now, the way a single spark of defiance can set the world ablaze, but also how it can draw the wrath of those who hold the sky. You wander closer to the memory of that feast. Bronze cups clink, mortals and immortals alike sipping honey-sweet wine. But even the wine tastes different tonight. There's bitterness in the cup, a hint of ash at the back of your tongue. You sense the weight of every choice made at that table, the weight of fire stolen, of bones offered, of consequences that would echo for eons. There's a quirky, half-forgotten tidbit in the old tale. Some say that even in the midst of this divine deception, Prometheus couldn't help but sneak a taste of the forbidden feast himself. Just a morsel like the man who can't resist the first bite of a pie cooling on the windowsill. A titan's appetite forever unsated. You can almost hear him chuckle a quiet rumble beneath the clamour of the banquet. Yet as you linger at the edge of that gathering, you realise that this feast wasn't just a prank, it was a turning point. Mortals would never again be wholly subject to the whims of Olympus. With that one trick, Prometheus carved out a place at the table for humankind, even if the seat was a little wobbly, and the plate was never as full as the god's own. The night deepens around you, but the echoes of that feast won't fade. You see Zeus' eyes narrow in the dancing light of the hearth, the flicker of a god's anger that will not be cooled by sweet wine or laughter. The price of Prometheus's cunning is already being written in the stars. Still, you can't help but marvel at the audacity of it. A single banquet, one trick was enough to plant a seed of rebellion in every mortal heart. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the murmurs of future generations, that quiet eternal vow to never again bow completely. You follow Prometheus out into the cold night, the stolen flame still clutched in his hands. The feast is over, but the reckoning has only just begun. In the distance, the clouds begin to gather, the first hint of Zeus' fury taking form in the darkness above. It's a slow build, that anger. Like the low rumble of a distant storm, but you know it's coming as sure as dawn follows dusk. The gods do not forgive. And in that knowledge there's a lesson for every mortal who's ever dared to steal a piece of the sky. Be ready to pay the price. You pause, listening to the wind as it rustles through the olive groves, carrying the scent of roasted meat and charred bone. There's an almost musical quality to it, like the faint ringing of a dinner bell calling you back to the table. But you know better now, this isn't a feast to be savoured. It's a memory to be carried heavy as a crown. Prometheus moves on the feast's laughter, already fading behind him. But you can still taste the salt of the ocean air in the distance, feel the crackle of embers in your chest. The trickster has played his hand, and you're left with the knowledge that even the smallest flicker of defiance can set the world spinning in a new direction. You catch one last glimpse of the table, the bones glinting in the firelight like the white teeth of some ancient predator. And you wonder, did Prometheus ever feel fear? Or was the fire in his heart enough to keep him warm, even as the wrath of Olympus gathered like a storm on the horizon? The night holds its breath as you follow the Titan's path. Each step echoes with the memory of that fateful feast, the laughter and the lies, the flicker of a spark that would not be contained. And in that echo, you sense the beginning of a story that will not end until the last ember fades. The night deepens and your breath fogs in the cold as you follow Prometheus's footsteps down the rugged slopes. The stolen flame flickers in his hand, the only light in a world that was never meant to be lit by mortal fingers. But tonight, mortals become something more than what they were, no longer just creatures of earth and bone, but wielders of a spark that could forge new worlds. You pause at the edge of a small village where the thatched roofs glisten with dew under the watchful moon. It's quiet, too quiet. You feel the weight of the god's silence in the air, but Prometheus doesn't flinch. He steps into the darkness and you're right behind him, the stolen flame casting long shadows across the earth. He reaches the first hearth, a humble circle of stones blackened with old ash. Kneeling there, he lets the flame lick at the dry kindling, coaxing it to life. And just like that, the world changes. You can smell the wood smoke curling up into the cold night, a thin grey thread of defiance that weaves its way skyward. The crackle of the first mortal fire sings in your ears, a lullaby of warmth and light. Historians still argue whether this was the birth of civilization or the first step towards ruin. Fire is a double-edged sword. It cooks, it warms it, forges weapons and war. But in this moment there is only the glow, the promise of safety against the endless dark. Prometheus leans back, watching the flames dance in the night, and you see a flicker of something like peace in his eyes. Around you the villagers stir. Sleep-heavy eyes blink open, drawn by the glow. Children peer out from behind woven blankets, their faces bright with wonder. The air tastes different now, warm and alive. You can almost hear the hush of their collective breath as they realize that this light doesn't belong to the gods, it's theirs now, and yours too. You find yourself standing at the threshold of a new world. Sparks pop and hiss in the hearth, each one a heartbeat of this newfound power. The people gather closer, their faces flushed with hope and fear. A mother holds her child closer, the flickering light painting them in hues of orange and gold. You see a pot of water set by the hearth, its surface beginning to steam as the warmth seeps into the clay. There's a quirky little detail from these early days of fire's reign. Some say the first pots cracked and split unprepared for the sudden heat. Mortals had to learn clay by clay how to make vessels worthy of this stolen gift. It's funny to think about a god's spark in mortal hands, and the first thing they do is break a pot. You can almost hear Prometheus chuckle, the sound echoing down the centuries. But even in this small accident, there's progress. Cracked pots become better pots, just as mortals learn to master this gift, to shape it into something that will last beyond the first night's warmth. You stand there feeling the crackle of possibility in the air, and you know that this was never just about light or heat, it's about the power to build, to transform. The flames spread, and so does the word. From village to village the story grows, fire stolen from the gods and given freely to those who had only ever known the cold. It's a story whispered over new hearths, carried in the smoke and the embers that drift skyward like prayers. You can almost taste the ash on your tongue, sweet and bitter all at once. As you watch, you realize that this small circle of stones is just the beginning. The fire's glow will spread beyond these huts, beyond these fields. It will forge ploughs and swords, bake bread and clay, melt copper and bronze. The world will never be the same, and you're there at the start, your skin tingling with the promise of it all. Prometheus stands silent beside the hearth, the flicker of flames reflected in his eyes. You sense the weight of what he's done, how a single act of defiance can echo through millennia. But he doesn't look back towards Olympus. His gaze is fixed on the mortals before him, their faces bright with wonder and fear. He's given them more than warmth, he's given them the power to shape their own destiny. In the hush of that moment you feel it too, the knowledge that every forge, every candle, every blazing torch traces back to this night. A single stolen spark cradled in the hands of a titan now burns in mortal hearts forever. You watch the villagers gather closer, their voices soft as they murmur thanks they don't fully understand. The children reach out to the flames, their small fingers glowing in the firelight. You can smell the first hint of roasted grain, the promise of bread and life. And in that scent you hear the echo of all the fires to come. It's a heady, almost intoxicating feeling, this first glow of human mastery over the elements. You see the way the light flickers in their eyes, a promise of something grand and terrible. Because even as the warmth seeps into their bones, there's a whisper in the back of your mind. Fire can build, but it can also destroy. You wonder if Prometheus knew that. If he understood that giving mortals fire meant giving them the means to forge empires and to raze them to the ground. But tonight there's no room for fear. Just the flicker of flames, the quiet crackle of possibility, and the taste of smoke in the air. The night winds on the sky bright with the promise of dawn. You stand there feeling the heat against your skin, and you know you'll never forget this night. The night when the world changed, and mortals claimed a piece of the divine for their own. You linger by the hearth as the fire flickers and grows its warmth, spilling into the cold night air like a promise. The crackle of the wood is a song older than any words you know, a lullaby of comfort and danger in equal measure. You can smell the sweetness of the first bread baking on a flat stone, see the glow of the coals in a young blacksmith's forge. Prometheus's gift is more than warmth. It's a forge for the future, and you're there to see it begin. The world around you seems to shift as that stolen spark is coaxed into life. You see it in the sweat that beads on the brow of a young craftsman, the glow of the forge turning his skin to bronze. Bronze, there's the word that will shape kingdoms and carve empires from the earth. You watch as the first crude shapes emerge from the heat, a rough blade, a hammered bold tools for harvest and for war. Historians still argue whether bronze was first worked in the highlands of Anatolia or along the riverbanks of Mesopotamia, but for you tonight it doesn't matter. The scent of hot metal is the same in every corner of this newborn world. The forge is alive, and you can almost taste the iron tang of ambition on your tongue. There's something almost holy about it, this act of forging. The hammer's rhythm is the heartbeat of creation itself, each strike echoing in your bones. You watch molten metal pool and harden rough edges smoothed under practiced hands. The forge is a small bright sun in the darkness, and mortals gather round it like moths drawn to light. You're there when the first bronze blade is lifted from the coals, still glowing red, the edge sharp and terrible in the night. The craftsman turns it in his hands, the weight of it a new kind of power. You feel it too, the promise and the peril, the way this blade can cut wheat or flesh with equal ease. But there's a funny, almost forgotten tale that clings to these first fires. Some say the first forges were guarded by dogs, with the eyes that gleam like coals themselves, spirits of the forge, or maybe just half-wild hounds drawn by the warmth and the scent of roasted meat. You smile at the thought, the image of those faithful beasts curled close to the forge, sharing in the glow. Prometheus's gift isn't just about fire, it's about the hunger to create. You feel it in the air, in the hiss of water cooling metal, in the hush of the crowd gathered around the forge. Each spark, each swing of the hammer is a step away from the dark and towards something new, and you're there to witness it, every heartbeat of it. The craftsman's hands are sure, though you can see the tremor of awe in his fingers. He holds the blade aloft and the firelight dances along the edge. Around you there are no gods, no Zeus with his thunder, no Hera with her jealous gaze. Just mortals and their tools, the night alive with the scent of sweat and smoke. Prometheus watches too, his face half shadowed in the glow. You see the pride in his eyes, but also the weight of what he's done. He's given mortals the power to shape the world and to break it. You feel that dual promise in your own chest, the way the heat of the forge seeps into your bones. The first forge is humble. No grand temple or gleaming palace, just a circle of stones, a bellows made of goat hide, and a fire that refuses to die. But it's enough. More than enough. In the quiet between hammer strikes, you can almost hear the future empires built on bronze and blood kingdoms that will rise and fall under the weight of blades born in these flames. You step closer to the forge, the heat prickling your skin, and you see how each blow of the hammer carries a prayer. Not to the gods, not anymore. The prayers are for skill, for strength, for the hope that what is forged here will outlast the night. You catch the scent of wet clay hardening in the fire, new pots, new shapes for a new world. The flame is no longer just stolen, it's claimed. The villagers stand close, their faces bright in the glow. You see the children's eyes wide with wonder, the elders' brows furrowed with worry. Because they know as you do that fire is never just a gift. It's a responsibility, a burden. And yet, no one looks away. Prometheus stands apart, his expression soft in the firelight. You sense that he's not just watching the forging of metal tonight, he's watching the forging of hope. In each ring of the hammer, each hiss of quenched bronze, he sees the spark of something bigger than any god's wrath. The night stretches on the forge's glow, defying the cold. and in that glow you see the promise of all that will come, the plough that will turn the earth, the shield that will turn aside a spear, the kettle that will feed a family. Small things perhaps, but each one a step away from the darkness. You stand there as the fire burns low, the coals still warm under your feet. The first forge, the first blade, it's all there in the hush of the night, and you know that even if Zeus himself were to stand here, he could not unmake what has been begun. Fire in mortal hands, bronze beneath mortal hammers, it's a song that cannot be silenced. Prometheus turns to leave the echo of the forge ringing in your ears. You follow your steps, light on the earth that still shivers with the memory of that first blaze. The forge is quiet now, but you know it will roar to life again tomorrow, and every tomorrow after that. The world is awake and there is no turning back. The forge's song fades behind you as Prometheus moves on the glow of the last embers, a warm memory in the cold night. The air is thick with the scent of smoke and molten metal, but already you can sense another scent drifting on the wind, a sweetness tainted with the bitterness of the god's design. Zeus has been watching, and his fury will not be long in coming. You walk with Prometheus as he climbs the next hill, the stolen fire still flickering in mortal hands behind you. But ahead there's something new in the air, a presence soft and beguiling. You see her in a flash of moonlight, Pandora, her name as gentle as the dawn, but her purpose as sharp as the blade just forged. She is beautiful, almost impossibly so. Skin like the smoothest marble eyes that shimmer with secrets. Crafted by Hephaestus himself, gifted with talents and charms by each of the gods. You watch her step into the world as if it were her own, and you feel the hush that falls around her. Even Prometheus seems to pause, a flicker of something, fear may be crossing his eyes. Pandora's presence is a puzzle box of beauty and danger. She carries with her a jar, some say a box, but the truth is lost in the telling, and it hums with a promise no mortal can resist. You can almost hear it, a low whisper at the edge of your mind, calling out in a voice that is part lullaby, part warning. Historians still argue whether Pandora knew what she carried. Was she an innocent, a pawn in Zeus's scheme, or was there a flicker of curiosity in her own heart, a desire to see what lay hidden beneath that heavy lid? You watch her fingers brush the jar's surface, and you wonder if she feels the same pull that tugs at your own chest. Zeus crafted Pandora as both gift and curse, a balm for the wound Prometheus had struck with his stolen flame. But tonight you see her for what she truly is, a test, a lesson in curiosity and consequence, and you feel it in the chill that slides down your spine. The villagers gather close, drawn by her beauty and the glint of the jar in the moonlight. You see the way their eyes widen, the way their hands hover at their sides, unsure whether to reach out or recoil. The jar seems to shimmer in the dark, the faintest golden glow leaking from beneath the lid. There's a curious tale, half forgotten in dusty text, that Pandora herself didn't want to open the jar at first. That she resisted night after night until at last the weight of it was too much. You can almost feel that weight now heavy in your own hands. The knowledge that something waits inside a promise or a plague no one knows. The night is quiet, but you can hear the jars whisper in the dark. You wonder what it says to her. Is it a song of hope or a dirge of ruin? Does she hear the laughter of the gods in every breath she takes? Prometheus watches from the shadows, his face grave. He knows what Zeus intends. Fire was stolen, but this is the god's answer. A beauty to bewitch, a jar to beguile. You sense his unease, the way he shifts his weight from foot to foot, eyes never leaving the shimmering curve of that jar. And then she lifts the lid, just a crack, just enough to let the first sigh of darkness spill into the world. You can almost see it, a thin curl of shadow, a whisper of sickness and sorrow that slithers through the night. The villagers stagger back, their breaths sharp in the cold air. You feel it too, the weight of everything that's been unleashed. out of the jar spill hunger and plague, greed and envy, all the ills that will haunt mortals until the last ember fades. The air grows heavy, the fire's warmth swallowed by the sudden chill of despair. But even as the darkness spreads, you see something else, a flicker of light that clings to the bottom of the jar. Hope. That's the final gift, the last echo of Prometheus's defiance. Hope fragile and bright, flickering in the darkness like a single star in a winter sky. You feel it in your chest, a stubborn glow that refuses to die even as the night closes in. You wonder if Pandora knew it would be there, if the gods themselves realized that in their cruelty they had left mortals one last weapon against the cold. The jar clatters to the ground, the echoes of its opening still ringing in your ears. Around you, the villagers huddle closer, their eyes haunted but bright. Because even in the darkness they have hope. Prometheus steps forward, his face lined with shadows and light. He meets Pandora's gaze, and for a moment there is a shared understanding between them two. Bringers of change, two vessels of fate. You stand with them, the night heavy with all that has been unleashed, and you know that the world will never be the same. You feel the weight of it in your own bones, the knowledge that even the smallest crack can let in the light or the dark. That a single choice can shape the course of 1,000 lives. And in the hush that follows, you hear the faintest, most hopeful of whispers that even when the jar is empty, hope remains. The villagers begin to rebuild their fires, their hands trembling but determined. You watch them as they coax the embers back to life, the glow of the forge returning to their cheeks. Pandora stands silent, the jar at her feet, and you see that she too understands the cost of curiosity. But in her eyes you see something more, a glimmer of hope that no god's curse can ever snuff out. The night stretches on the darkness deeper than before. But in the quiet crackle of the fire, in the hush of breath and the flicker of mortal dreams, you feel the echo of Prometheus's gift still burning. And you know that whatever comes next, this spark, this hope, will always find a way to endure. The night grows long and cold, but you don't feel it as you walk beside Prometheus, his footsteps leaving no mark on the earth but an echo in your heart. The stolen fire has spread flickering in every mortal hearth, yet the price for such a gift cannot be denied. You feel it in the air, a heaviness that presses against your chest, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Prometheus knows it too. His gaze is fixed on the horizon where the mountains rise like teeth against the sky. The Caucasus, jagged and ancient, older even than the oldest stories you've ever heard whispered at night. It's there in those cold cliffs that his fate waits. You feel the tremor in the earth beneath your feet as he draws closer, as if the mountain itself is waking to meet him. Historians still argue whether Prometheus went willingly or was dragged by Zeus's thunderous will. Some say he stood proud and unflinching, daring the king of the gods to chain him. Others whisper of chains forged from fear as much as iron. But tonight you see no fear in his stride, only the quiet acceptance of a burden that cannot be denied. You walk with him through the deep valleys, the moonlight painting the rocks silver and cold. The air is thin, sharp in your lungs, but you press on. Ahead, the cliffs of the Caucasus rise higher, their jagged edges like the teeth of some ancient beast. You can almost hear the mountain's breath, slow and heavy, as if it too knows what is coming. Prometheus pauses at the base of the cliffs, his breath misting in the frigid air. You see the weight of all that has come before the stolen fire, the trickster's feast, Pandora's jar etched in the lines of his face. There's no triumph in his eyes now, only the quiet resolve of one who has chosen his path no matter the cost. The chains are waiting links of unbreakable bronze cold as the mountain wind. Hephaestus, the reluctant smith, forged them at Zeus' command. You can almost hear the hammers ring, still echoing in the air, a ghost of creation twisted into punishment. They glint in the moonlight, cruel and beautiful, a testament to the price of defiance. Prometheus steps forward and you feel the hush that falls over the mountain. The world seems to pause, every breath of wind holding its silence, as the Titan bows his head and lets the chains coil around his wrists. They bite into his skin, each link heavy with the weight of Zeus' fury. There's a fringe tale that some still tell in quiet corners of how Hephaestus wept as he forged those chains, each blow of his hammer a curse upon the god's cruelty. You wonder if it's true. You wonder if even the forge smith of Olympus could feel the injustice in every ring of metal. The chains wrap tighter and you feel it in your own bones, the cold bite of punishment that knows no end. The mountain shudders beneath your feet as Prometheus is bound to the rock, his arms stretched wide in a silent testament to the price of rebellion. The wind howls through the cliffs, a mournful song that seems to echo the Titan's silent defiance. You stand there, the night pressing in around you, and you wonder how it feels to know that every dawn will bring pain, every dusk will leave you whole only for the cycle to begin again. Prometheus's face is calm, but you see the flicker of something else in his eyes, a spark that refuses to die even as the chains hold him fast. You can almost taste the iron in the air, the sharp tang of metal and blood. The mountain is cold, but the fire in Prometheus's heart is warmer than any hearth you've ever known. You feel it in the way the wind shifts around him, as if the world itself cannot quite snuff out the glow of his defiance. The chains groan as they settle the final echo of the forge, lost to the quiet of the night. You see Prometheus tilt his head back, his gaze fixed on the stars above. They burn cold and bright, so far from the warmth he gave to mortals. And yet in their distant glow you see the echo of the flame. He stole the promise that even in the dark there is light. The villagers below will sing of this night for generations. You hear their voices already soft and uncertain, weaving stories of the Titan bound to the rock, the fire that burns in mortal hearts because of him. Each tale a spark, each word a tiny flame against the darkness. Prometheus doesn't speak, but you can feel his thoughts in the hush of the mountain air. He knows that this is only the beginning. The eagle will come with the dawn, its wings dark against the sky, its beak sharp and hungry. But he will not beg, he will not bend. His silence is a shield, his defiance a fortress no god can breach. You stand with him as the night deepens, the stars cold and watchful overhead. The mountain breathes slow and deep beneath your feet, a reminder that time itself will not break this Titan's spirit. And in the quiet you hear the echo of a promise, that even in chains, even in endless torment, hope can still burn brighter than any forge. The wind howls and the mountain sings its low, rumbling song. You feel the weight of it in your bones, the eternal punishment, the endless cycle. But you also feel the warmth of that stolen flame, the way it flickers in every mortal heart undimmed by the cold. Prometheus closes his eyes, his breath calm and steady, and you know that though his body is bound, his spirit is freer than any god's command. In the darkness of the Caucasus, in the echo of the forge, and the hush of the night, the spark of rebellion lives on. The night's hush is broken only by the sigh of the wind, but you feel the dread building in the dark. The first faint glow of dawn is enough to wake the shadows, and you hear it then, a beating of wings heavy and inexorable. The eagle is coming, and you know this is the part of the story where the price of fire will be paid again and again. You're there as the first rays of morning creep across the jagged peaks of the Caucasus, turning the rocks to gold and the chains to molten fire. The eagle circles once overhead, a silhouette of darkness against the pale sky, and then it dives. Its cry slices the cold morning air, a promise of pain that will never end. Prometheus does not flinch. He lifts his head, eyes calm, and you see the quiet resignation in his face. You feel it too, the knowledge that this agony is not just punishment, it is a statement. Zeus' final word against defiance. But Prometheus is a Titan. and titans do not bow. The eagle lands on the jagged ledge, its talons scraping stone, its wings beating the air into a fury. It pauses for a moment, its head cocked as if to study this bound figure, and then it begins its beak tearing into the flesh of Prometheus's side, each bite a testament to the god's vengeance. Historians still argue whether this daily torment was literal or symbolic, an allegory for the cycles of nature, for the eternal struggle of rebellion against power. But here now there is no doubt in your mind. You see the blood dark and bright against the pale rock, and you hear the quiet gasp of pain that Prometheus does not let become a scream. You stand there, breath caught in your throat as the eagle feasts. It is grisly ritual, but there is a strange, terrible beauty to it too. The way the dawn's light turns the blood to rubies, the way the mountain seems to hold its breath with every beat of those black wings. There's a fringe tale, a whisper in the old stories that says the eagle was once a mortal king cursed for his own hubris to be the instrument of divine punishment. You wonder if there's truth in that, if this endless cycle of pain is also a lesson in humility for those who would dare to challenge the gods. The eagle feasts until it is sated, its feathers slick with blood and the cold mountain air, and then it takes flight, leaving Prometheus to the silence of the cliffs once more. You see the wounds begin to knit together, the flesh regrowing in the hush of the morning, a miracle of torment, no end, no release. Prometheus breathes in the thin mountain air, each breath a quiet defiance. You watch the way his chest rises and falls, the way his eyes flicker with a fire that no beak can tear away. This is his fate, but it is also his victory, because with every dawn, with every scream, he does not give, he denies Zeus the satisfaction of true conquest. The villagers below in the valleys where the hearth fires now glow, bright speak of this agony in hushed voices. They sing songs of the bound titan of the eagle, that comes with the dawn of the fire that still burns in their homes because of his sacrifice. You hear their voices on the wind, soft and reverent, a promise that Prometheus's pain is not forgotten. You wonder what thoughts keep him company in the long, silent hours between the eagle's visits. Does he remember the warmth of the first hearth, the laughter of children seeing firelight dance for the first time, or does he hold fast to the memory of that single stolen ember glowing bright against the endless night? The mountain is cold, but there is a strange warmth in your chest as you stand there, because you see that this is not just a punishment, it is a testament to the power of a single act of defiance, to the weight of a gift given freely. And you know that even as the eagle returns each dawn, even as the blood flows and the wounds heal, that spark will never be snuffed out. Prometheus's face is calm, his eyes turned skyward as if to challenge the very stars, and in that gaze you see the quiet triumph of one who has chosen his path and will not turn away. The wind sighs through the mountain peaks, a soft, mournful song, but you hear something else in it too, a whisper of hope that even the gods cannot silence. The day stretches on the sun, climbing higher in the sky. The eagle's cry still echoes in your ears, but you feel no fear, because you see the truth in Prometheus's silence that pain endured for the sake of others is a kind of victory all its own. You stand there as the shadows shorten and the air grows warm. The mountain is alive with the quiet songs of wind and stone, and you know that as long as those songs are sung, Prometheus's story will live on. The eagle may come with every dawn, but so too does the fire in mortal hearts, and that is a gift no punishment can erase. As the eagle's shadow fades across the cliffs, the mountain breathes a cold silence. You linger there beside Prometheus, feeling the shiver of the wind in your bones, and you know the villagers below feel it too. They may not see the bound titan, but they sense the story's weight in every flicker of their hearths. Night falls again, and the world below glows with the embers of stolen fire. You drift down the slope, your feet light on the stony path, and you find yourself at the edge of a small village. The people here live close to the earth, rough homes of stone and wood, smoke curling from the chimneys in thin blue threads that vanish into the night. You smell the sweet scent of roasting grain, the tang of sweat and earth and hope. The villagers speak in low voices around the fire. They tell each other the story of Prometheus, of how he gave them warmth and light, and of how he suffers for it still. Each retelling is a little different, embroidered with bright threads of fear and wonder. You hear the children's voices soft and uncertain, asking if the eagle truly comes every dawn. The old men answer with sighs and nods their eyes distant and sad. Historians still argue whether these early villagers truly believed in the Titan's chains, or if the story was a symbol, a myth woven into the night to make sense of the world's harshness. But you see it in the way the mothers draw their children close, in the way the men's hands clench around wooden cups of beer. This story is as real to them as the cold wind that slips through the door at night. There's a curious, almost tender superstition here. The villagers say that if you listen closely to the wind on a moonless night, you can hear Prometheus's chains rattling high in the mountains. Some say it's a warning, don't steal what belongs to the gods. Others say it's a promise that even when the gods punish, mortals can endure. You watch as a girl, her face smudged with ash, lifts her head to the night sky. Her voice is a whisper, but it carries far in the hush of the village. She wonders aloud if Prometheus can hear their stories, if his heart beats a little steadier because they remember. You see her eyes shine in the firelight, and you know that this is how legends live, passed from tongue to tongue, woven into lullabies and work songs. The villagers' tales are as bright as the fire itself. Some speak of the Titan's sorrow, how he weeps at dawn when the eagle comes. Others say he does not weep at all, that his eyes burn with the same fire he gave them, bright and unyielding. You can almost see it in the way the flames dance in the hearth, each spark a tiny echo of the first stolen ember. Prometheus's name becomes a quiet chant in the night, a lullaby for those who live close to the edge of the world. And as you stand there, you feel the power of it, how a single act of defiance can ripple out across centuries, across empires and kingdoms, until it becomes something more than a story. It becomes a promise. You step outside the circle of the fire, the night cold against your skin. The sky's a bowl of darkness above the stars, winking like distant hearths. You hear the wind sigh through the trees, and for a moment you think you hear it too, the faint, endless echo of Prometheus's chains. There's an old man sitting apart from the others, his back bent, his hands gnarled like the roots of an ancient tree. He's carving something, a small figure of wood, rough but full of life. You crouch beside him, watching as the shape of a man bound in chains emerges from the whorls of the wood. The old man doesn't speak, but his hands tell the story, each cut of the knife a word, each curl of wood a memory. He lifts the carving to the firelight, his eyes bright with something like pride. And you see it then, the quiet defiance in the figure's face, the way the chains seem almost an afterthought. It's not the punishment that defines Prometheus, but the gift he gave. You feel that truth settle deep in your bones, warmer than any hearth. The night deepens and the villagers drift to their beds, the children clutching little wooden figures of the bound Titan, the mothers humming soft songs to chase away the cold. You stand there a little longer, feeling the weight of the night and the warmth of the fire, and you know that this story will never fade. Prometheus is bound, yes, but the fire he gave lives on in every hearth, every forge, every quiet breath of wonder in the dark. You feel it in your own chest, a glow that no eagle's beak can tear away. And as you turn back towards the mountains, you sense the Titan's presence in the hush of the wind, the soft clink of chains that is more lullaby than lament. The night is long, but you walk it with Prometheus' gift burning bright in your heart. And in the darkness you know that the stories of mortals, soft and fragile as they may seem, are stronger than any god's decree. The village sleeps beneath a blanket of stars, the embers of their hearth still glowing softly against the dark. You feel the quiet rhythm of mortal life, the sigh of the wind through thatched roofs, the gentle creak of wooden beams settling in the night. But even as the world seems to rest, the story of Prometheus burns bright in every breath you take. You walk with him in the hush before dawn, tracing the path of that first stolen spark. It flickers in every firelit window, in the glow of coals under heavy pots, in the molten shimmer of bronze cooling in the smith's hands. You see how the gift of fire has become more than survival. It's become the heart of what it means to be human. You pause at a forge, the air still warm from the day's work. The tools are simple, but you feel the power in them, the weight of hammers, the careful edge of blades waiting to be sharpened. The scent of scorched iron and hot clay clings to the stones, a reminder of how fire has reshaped not just pots and pans, but the bones of the world itself. Historians still argue whether fire was the first tool or the first weapon, whether the forge was born in the glow of a hearth or the glare of a battlefield. But as you stand here, feeling the warmth of the coals seep into your skin, you know that fire has always been both a promise of creation and a threat of destruction. You step inside the forge's shadows, deep and comforting. A blacksmith sleeps in the corner, his face lined with soot and dreams. His hands, even in rest, are curled around the memory of the hammer. You wonder what he dreams of: shining blades or roaring fires, the quiet satisfaction of a job well done, or the distant drumbeat of war. You see the first hints of dawn through the cracked shutters, the sky paling from indigo to silver. The forge is quiet, but you can almost hear the hiss of steam and the soft sigh of bellows. In your mind's eye, the forge is never still. It's alive, each coal a heartbeat, each spark a breath. There's a curious tidbit you remember. Some say the first blacksmiths believed their forges were guarded by spirits flickering in the corners of the flames. They would leave offerings of bread and honey by the hearth, whispering thanks to the little gods of fire who kept the coals burning. You smile at the thought, at the idea that even in the age of titans and thunder mortals found their own gods in the glow of their hearths. You watch as the sun's light slowly fills the forge, catching on the rough edges of unfinished blades and the soft curves of bronze pots. The world outside wakes with it, roosters crowing, children stirring under rough-woven blankets. But you stay here a little longer, feeling the hush of the forge wrap around you like a blanket. Prometheus's gift is everywhere you look. In the soft light of the hearth, in the careful dance of embers in the forge, in the glow of molten bronze that will become something new and strong. You see how mortals have made this gift their own, shaping it with calloused hands and quiet determination. You remember the stories the villagers told, the songs sung in the glow of the fire. They spoke of the power in their hands, the quiet pride of creation. And you know that this is how mortals endure, by taking what they are given and making it something that can never be taken away. The forge is quiet, but you can almost hear Prometheus's voice in the crackle of the coals. Not in words, but in the warmth that seeps into your bones, in the quiet promise that no matter how many dawns the eagle comes, the fire will never die. You leave the forge as the sun rises higher, the sky turning gold above the rooftops. The world is awake now, alive with the smell of bread baking and the bright clang of hammers on bronze. You walk the winding paths of the village, each doorway a flicker of warmth, each window a silent testament to the gift of fire. The children chase each other through the narrow lanes, their laughter bright as the morning. You see their mothers tending to the hearth, their fathers sharpening blades and mending pots, and you feel it in your chest, the quiet echo of Prometheus's chains, the weight of a burden carried so that these small joys could burn bright. You pause at the edge of the village, the mountains looming in the distance. You think of the eagle, of the cold bite of bronze, and the endless echo of Prometheus's pain. But you also think of the warmth of the forge, the glow of the hearth, the laughter of children chasing shadows in the morning light, because that's the legacy of fire, hope and struggle creation and destruction woven together in the hush of every dawn. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of the mountain and the warmth of the village, and you know that the story is far from over. Prometheus's flame still burns in every mortal heart, a promise that even the gods cannot snuff out. And in the quiet moments before the day's work begins, you feel it in your own chest, a spark that will not be silenced. The village bustles with the fresh light of morning, but your thoughts drift back to that lonely figure chained to the rock. You feel the quiet echo of his agony in every heartbeat, the soft clink of his chains in the hush between the hammer's blows. Yet even here, in the warmth of the forge and the laughter of the children, you know his story isn't just about punishment. It's about something deeper, something that hums in every mortal soul. You wander past the forge and into the heart of the village, where the elders gather around the fire to share stories older than memory. Their voices are soft, worn by time and smoke, but each word glows like a coal in the darkness. You hear how Prometheus's chains have become more than a tale of divine wrath. They're a symbol, a melody that echoes through every act of defiance and every song of hope. The fire crackles, and one of the elders, his beard white as the snows of the Caucasus, leans forward, his eyes bright in the glow. He speaks of how even poets and rebels have claimed the chains of Prometheus as their own, how the music of his suffering has become the anthem of those who will not bow. You feel the truth of it in the beat of your own heart, in the hush that falls around the fire as the elder's words weave a spell. There's a quirk of history you love here. In ancient Greece, musicians would tune their lyres to what they called the Lament of Prometheus, a chord progression meant to echo the Titan's endless pain. You wonder if they knew in those quiet moments before the music began that they were tuning their strings to the heartbeat of defiance itself. The villagers listen with rapt attention, the children wide-eyed in the firelight. You see how the story changes as it passes from one voice to the next, how it grows, how it shifts, how it never truly fades. Prometheus's chains are more than bronze, they're the music of resistance, the soft echo of every voice that dares to speak against the silence. Historians still argue whether these songs of Prometheus were meant to comfort or to challenge, whether they were lullabies for the weary or battle cries for the bold. But as you sit there in the circle of the fire, you know it doesn't matter. Because even the softest song can be a blade in the dark, a spark in the cold. You feel it in the way the elders speak, their voices rising and falling like the flames. Each note of the story is a thread in the tapestry of memory, a promise that even when the gods rage, mortals will find a way to sing. You close your eyes and let the music wash over you, the music of chains that are more than punishment, of pain that becomes a hymn of hope. The night stretches out around you, the fires glow a small stubborn light against the dark. The children drift off to sleep, their dreams filled with titans and eagles, with the quiet strength of those who refuse to yield. You see the soft rise and fall of their breath, the way their small hands clutch at blankets and straw dolls, and you know that even in sleep they carry the echo of that music in their hearts. You step away from the fire, the cold air biting at your skin, but you feel warmer for having heard those songs, for having shared in that quiet rebellion. You wander down the narrow lanes past doorways bright with candlelight and the faint scent of roasting meat. Every light, every whisper of warmth feels like a promise kept. Prometheus's chains rattle in the distance, but here in the hush of the village they've become something else. They're a reminder that even in the darkest night there's a rhythm that cannot be broken. A music that carries on in the forge's ring, in the soft notes of a shepherd's pipe, in the laughter of children chasing each other through the streets. You pause at the edge of the village, the mountains looming dark and silent above. The eagle will come again with the dawn, and Prometheus will endure. But you know now that he's not alone, not truly, because in every spark struck in the forge, in every story told around the fire, his defiance lives on. The night deepens, the stars cold and bright overhead. You take a deep breath, tasting the smoke and the promise of a new day. And in the silence you hear it again, the music of chains, the echo of rebellion. It's soft to hear a lullaby instead of a battle cry, but it's no less powerful. Because that's the secret. The gods never understood that even in chains mortals find a way to sing. Even in silence they find a way to speak. And even in the cold shadow of Olympus they find a way to keep the fire burning. The night ebbs away, and the cold dawn begins to paint the sky in faint shades of silver and gold. You feel the shift in the air as the world turns once more, the slow rotation of the earth under your feet, a quiet testament to the power of cycles. Just as the sun rises without fail, so too does the story of Prometheus flicker in the minds of mortals. You find yourself wandering through the quiet streets of a city older than memory. Its white marble walls catch the morning light, gleaming like a promise of order and knowledge. Here in the winding alleys and shaded courtyards of Athens, the fire of Prometheus has become more than a flicker. It's a spark that lights the mind as well as the forge. You pause at the foot of a colonnade, the scent of olive oil and fresh bread thick in the air. Socrates stands there, his voice gentle and amused as he teases a group of eager students. They lean in close, their eyes bright, hungry for every word. You can feel the weight of his presence, the quiet strength of a man who sees the world as a puzzle to be solved, not a prison to endure. He speaks of fire, but not the flame that burns in the forge. He speaks of the fire of knowledge, the glow of understanding that flickers in the mind's eye. Prometheus gave you fire, he says with a wry smile. But what did you do with it? Did you use it to warm your homes or to forge your chains? You hear the soft laughter of his students, but you sense the weight of his question. Because even in the cradle of philosophy, the lesson of Prometheus still burns bright. Fire is a gift, but also a burden. A tool that can build as easily as it can destroy. Historians still argue whether Socrates truly spoke of Prometheus in those shadowed courtyards, or if later scholars wove the Titan's name into his teachings. But you see the truth in the gentle gleam of his eyes, the way he challenges each question with another question, each answer with a spark of doubt. He understands the lesson of the stolen flame, that knowledge like fire must be wielded with care. There's a curious detail here. Some say Socrates carried a small stone in his pocket, smooth and warm from the touch of his fingers. A reminder perhaps that even the hardest truths can be shaped, that even the weight of the gods can be made something smaller, something mortal. You wonder if he ever turned that stone over in his hand, thinking of Prometheus's endless chains. You linger in the hush of that courtyard, the marble cool beneath your fingertips. The olive trees rustle in the gentle morning breeze, and you feel the hum of conversation all around you. Questions, answers, laughter, each one a spark in the quiet dawn. The forge of the mind, you think, is as important as the forge of the blacksmith. Socrates' voice softens and he leans in closer to his students. Prometheus suffered, he says, but in that suffering he gave us more than fire. He gave us the courage to question, the strength to endure, the knowledge that even in the darkest night we carry a spark that no god can snuff out. You see the students lean back, their eyes bright with something like wonder. The lesson takes root, and you feel it too, a warmth in your chest that has nothing to do with the sun climbing over the Acropolis. The fire of Prometheus, the fire of curiosity burns in every question asked, every answer sought. The morning deepens and you walk on through the city. Everywhere you look, you see echoes of that spark, children reciting poetry in the agora, old men debating the shape of justice on worn marble benches, young lovers whispering promises beneath the olive trees. Each word, each breath, a quiet act of defiance against the cold silence of the gods. You pause at the edge of the city, the Parthenon rising above you like a beacon of mortal ambition. You feel the hush of history in the air, the weight of every stone laid by hands that knew the gift of fire and the price of defiance. And you know that even here, in the cradle of reason, the story of Prometheus is never far away. The eagle will come again with the dawn, the chains will rattle in the cold mountain wind. But here in the laughter of students and the quiet strength of questions, you see the fire that cannot be stolen back, the light that burns not just in the forge but in every curious mind that refuses to be silenced. The sun climbs higher, the city wakes fully to the day. You take one last breath of olive-scented air, the chatter of philosophers and poets ringing in your ears, and you know that in this city of marble and thought the gift of Prometheus still lives bright and unyielding, a quiet promise that the fire of knowledge can never be chained. You leave the white marble streets of Athens behind your footsteps, echoing with the soft eternal rhythm of Prometheus's story. The sun is bright overhead now, the air shimmering with heat and dust. But even in this warmth you feel the chill of the old arguments that still echo through the centuries. You wander past a dusty courtyard where a group of poets gathers their voices bright with the cadence of verses older than the walls that rise around them. They argue softly, Hesiod's name on their lips, Homer's name a soft counterpoint in the air. Two voices, two visions of the same world, and you feel the tension between them like the pull of a bowstring. Historians still argue whether Homer spoke of Prometheus at all, or if the Titan's name was swallowed by the sea of epics that sang of Achilles' rage and Odysseus' long wanderings. Some say Homer's silence was a deliberate slight, a refusal to speak the name of one who challenged the gods. Others wonder if there was a lost song, a hymn to the Titan that was never written down, never saved from the slow erosion of memory and time. You hear the poets' debates swell and soften like the surf of an ancient sea. One recites lines from Hesiod's Theogony, the Titan's name a bright note in the sombre chant of gods and monsters. Another counters with Homer's clear ringing words, the proud echo of heroes and their endless wars. The air hums with the weight of what is said and what is left unsaid. You stand at the edge of the argument, feeling the sun on your face and the dust in your throat, and you realize that this is what Prometheus's fire has always been, a spark of conflict, a bright flame that refuses to be contained. In the clash of poetry and philosophy, in the hush of temples and the clamour of forges, his gift burns bright. There's a quirky tidbit the poets share, a half-forgotten legend that Homer's own muse was once bound by Prometheus's chains, a spirit of song who slipped her bonds and carried his defiance into every verse. You smile at the thought that even in the silence of an epic there is a secret music that refuses to die. You feel the power of that silence here in the pause between stanzas, in the soft sigh of the wind through the olive groves that border the courtyard. The poets speak of war and glory, but you know that Prometheus's legacy is something quieter, something that flickers in every mortal breath, the need to question, to sing, to challenge. You drift from the courtyard as the sun climbs higher, your mind alive with the echoes of their verses. The path winds through fields of golden grain, the scent of dust and summer sweet in the air. You see the farmers working under the sun, sweat gleaming on their foreheads, the promise of bread in every careful motion. The fire of Prometheus glows here too in the forge of the plough, in the rhythm of harvest and hope. You pause at a small shrine set in the crook of an ancient olive tree. A simple offering of oil and bread sits on a rough stone altar, a quiet prayer to the Titan who gave mortals the means to master the earth. The wind rustles the branches above you, and you think you hear the faintest sigh chains rattling in the distance, or maybe just the hush of a world that remembers. The sun is warm on your shoulders, and you feel the weight of history in every breath. You think of the poets and their verses, of the questions that will never be answered, of the silence that sometimes speaks louder than any song. And you know that in that silence, in that unspoken name, Prometheus's fire burns bright. You return to the city as the shadows lengthen the poets' voices still echoing in your mind. The marble of the temples glows in the fading light, each column a testament to the stubborn brilliance of mortal hands. You see the flicker of oil lamps in the doorways, the soft glow of hearth fires kindled against the coming night. Each light, each warm breath of flame, a quiet rebellion against the darkness. Prometheus's name may be absent from Homer's verses, but you know it lives on in every whispered prayer, every defiant question, every bright spark struck in the heart of a mortal soul. The eagle may come, the chains may rattle, but the fire remains warm and alive in the hush of the night. The poets drift away as the sun sets their debates unfinished, their verses still bright in the air. You watch the last light fade from the sky, the world settling into the quiet of evening, and you know that even in the spaces between words, even in the silences of the greatest songs, Prometheus's gift waits ready to flicker to life in every breath, every heartbeat, every question that dares to be asked. As night falls again, you leave the city's bright marble behind, wandering into the hush of the high hills. The olive trees stand dark against the twilight, their twisted limbs reaching up like silent prayers. The air is thick with the scent of earth and old magic, and you feel the weight of every step as you climb higher, following whispers of an ancient rumour. They say there is a hidden shrine here, a place lost to the world but not to memory. A place where mortals once gathered to honour Prometheus, not with gold or fine offerings, but with the quiet songs of those who remember what it means to take a stand against the darkness. You find it in the hush of a small glade half hidden by wild laurel and the soft sigh of night breezes. A circle of stones weathered and worn by centuries of wind and rain. In the centre, a rough altar, no grand marble, no gilded offering plate. Just a simple slab of rock dark with the soot of countless small fires. Historians still argue whether this shrine truly existed, or if it was a creation of desperate hearts, those who needed to believe that somewhere even the gods might be challenged, even the stars might bend to mortal will. But you see it here, real and silent, a testament to the stubborn glow of defiance. You kneel at the edge of the circle, feeling the rough grit of stone beneath your palms. The air tastes of smoke and salt, the faint tang of old sacrifices, given in the hope that Prometheus might hear them. A few wilted flowers lie on the altar, the soft glow of a half-burned candle flickering in the dark. There's a curious story that clings to this place, a fragment of myth carried on the lips of travellers and dreamers. They say that in the heart of this shrine, if you listen closely enough, you can hear Prometheus's sigh carried on the wind, a promise that even in the deepest night there is a breath of light. You close your eyes and strain to hear it, the rustle of the laurel, the low moan of the wind through the rocks, and beneath it all a faint endless echo like the memory of chains, like the quiet song of a heart that will not break. You wonder if it's real, or if it's just the sound of your own breath, but it doesn't matter. The fire in your chest answers back soft and sure. The villagers who tended this shrine are long gone, their names lost to the dust of time. But you see their shadows in the stones, feel their prayers in the hush of the night. They came here to leave offerings of bread and olive oil, to whisper thanks to the Titan who gave them the courage to shape their own world. You light a small flame at the edge of the altar, the spark bright against the darkness. The shadows dance on the stones, and you see them shapes of men and women with weary hands and bright eyes, the memory of those who dared to stand tall in the face of the gods. Prometheus's chains still echo from the cliffs of the Caucasus, but here in this quiet place his story is more than pain, it's a promise. a reminder that even the smallest spark can hold back the night. The flame flickers in the hush, and you feel it hope fragile and bright, breathing in the quiet dark. You press your hand to the cold stone of the altar, feeling the rough edges bite into your skin, and you know that the chains of the gods cannot silence the heartbeat of those who remember. The eagle may come with every dawn, but here in this small circle of stone, mortals have claimed their own fire, a fire that will not be stolen back. The wind sighs through the laurel, and you stand the glow of the candle warm against your cheek. You look back one last time at the simple altar, at the flicker of the flame in the dark, and you know that Prometheus is not alone, not in the chains of the mountain, not in the hush of this hidden shrine. His story lives on in every breath, every heartbeat, every small act of defiance that flickers in the night. You walk back down the winding path, the stars bright above you, the memory of the shrine a soft glow in your chest. The world sleeps around you, but you know that somewhere high in the cold peaks, a titan endures, and in every mortal soul his fire still burns. The night air is crisp as you leave the quiet sanctuary of the shrine behind your breath, turning to mist with each step. The stars above are sharp and bright, like shards of the divine gaze still watching from their cold thrones. But you know that even the watchful eyes of Olympus can't see everything that stirs in the shadows. You follow the winding mountain path higher, the stones beneath your feet slick with dew. There's an ancient weight in the air here, a sense that the world itself is listening. You feel it in the hush between heartbeats, in the way the wind seems to sigh, like the breath of some ancient beast. The stories say that other watchers linger in these high, lonely places, creatures older than the gods, older than fire itself. The Hecatonchires, they're called the 100-handed ones. Titans who once roared with thunder in their blood, who held the sky in their many-armed embrace before even Zeus' thunderbolt was forged. Historians still argue whether these monstrous kin of the Titans truly linger in the darkness of the world, or if they are just shadows of our own fears, but here in the hush of the mountain you feel the truth of them. You pause at a narrow ledge, the wind cold and sharp against your face. The cliffs loom above jagged teeth of ancient stone, and for a moment you think you see something move in the dark, a flicker of massive limbs, a glint of eyes that are older than time. A shiver skates down your spine, but you keep walking, each step a quiet defiance against the fear that would still your heart. There's a fringe tale you remember whispered in the hushed corners of old libraries, that the Hecatonchires were the first to hear Prometheus' scream, the first to echo his defiance in the endless dark. That they too are chained by the weight of eternity, their endless limbs rattling like the bars of some cosmic prison. You wonder if they too dream of fire and freedom, or if the darkness has swallowed even that. The mountain path narrows, the wind howling around you in a low mournful song. You feel the weight of each step, the echo of Prometheus's chains in the hush of the cliffs, and you know that these ancient watchers, if they truly linger here, are not enemies but kin, bound by the same defiance, the same endless struggle against the cold silence of the gods. You reach a high ridge, the world spread out below you in a wash of silver moonlight. The valleys glow faint and soft, the flicker of mortal fires scattered like stars against the earth. You see the quiet glow of villages, the faint lines of roads that wind like rivers of light through the dark. And you feel it in your chest, the knowledge that every hearth, every forge, every small act of mortal defiance is a song that even the oldest shadows cannot silence. You stand there in the cold, the wind biting at your skin, and you feel the weight of the world pressing close. The Hecatonchires may never walk these cliffs again, but their memory lives in the bones of the mountain, in the hush of the stones, in the endless echo of those who refuse to bow. The wind shifts, and you hear it then, a deep low sigh that seems to come from the earth itself. The mountain groans beneath your feet, the ancient rock shivering with the memory of the forge and the flame. You feel the echo of Prometheus's gift in that sigh, the weight of a fire that will never die. You turn back towards the path, your breath a quiet fog in the night. The darkness presses close, but you carry the memory of that deep sigh with you, a promise that even in the silence of the mountains, there is a voice that will not be stilled. A song of chains and fire of watchers who stand in the dark and refuse to be forgotten. The sky is bright with stars as you descend, the wind singing soft and low around you. You walk with careful steps, each footfall a quiet testament to the strength of those who came before you. Prometheus endures on his lonely peak, and somewhere in the deep night, the 100-handed ones keep their silent vigil, and you in your small mortal way join their watch, each breath a flicker of light against the endless dark. The mountains fade behind you as you descend into a new world, one of marble and grandeur, of iron and ambition. You stand at the edge of Rome, the city of empire and law, and you feel the weight of every stone beneath your feet. Here Prometheus's gift of fire has been forged into something mighty, an empire that stretches to the very edges of the world. You walk the broad roads of the city, your footsteps echoing in the hush before dawn. The air is heavy with the scent of olive oil and iron of bread baking in clay ovens, and the faint tang of blood in the dust of the arena. Everywhere you look there is fire torches flickering in the hands of the night. Watch the soft glow of hearths in crowded courtyards, the red-hot breath of the forge shaping the tools of empire. Historians still argue whether Rome's conquest of the known world was driven by greed or destiny, whether the fire that burned in every Roman heart was the spark of civilization or the flame of conquest. But you see it here in the glow of the braziers and the rhythm of the blacksmith's hammer. Prometheus's fire has become something more than light and warmth. It has become a forge for empires. You pass the forge of a Roman armourer, the clang of iron on iron ringing in the hush of morning. Inside, a young apprentice works the bellows, his face flushed with the heat of the coals. You see the sweat gleaming on his brow, the gleam of molten bronze in the dark. The fire glows in his eyes, the promise of strength and order in every glowing blade. There's a curious tidbit whispered in these streets that the Roman legions would carry small portable forges with them on their endless marches, crafting nails and tools on the edge of the world. You imagine them, the clang of hammers echoing beneath the shadow of distant forests, the glow of coals bright against the night. The Empire's beating heart carried in the packs of its soldiers. The city wakes around you, merchants shouting in the markets, children chasing each other through the winding alleys. The scent of roasting meat mingles with the tang of olive oil, the bright chatter of voices rising like birdsong in the dawn. But beneath it all, you hear the hush of the forge, the low hum of the fire that shapes not just metal, but the very bones of the empire. You pause at the edge of the forum, the marble columns rising bright and cold in the morning light. Senators gather in low conversation, their voices hushed and heavy with the weight of law and fate. You see the fire in their eyes too, the flicker of ambition, the quiet glow of power held close. Prometheus's gift lives here in the hush of the Senate and the roar of the games, in the crackle of torches that light the triumphal arches in the forge that shapes the swords of conquest and the ploughs of the farmer. Fire is the heart of empire, and you feel it in every breath you take. You think of the eagle of the endless cycle of pain on that lonely mountain, and you wonder if Prometheus, bound in his agony, ever dreamed of this, a city built on the gift he gave an empire that would echo his defiance in every conquered land. The fire he stole burns here brighter than ever, but its glow is both comfort and warning. The streets grow busier as the sun climbs higher, the press of bodies a living river of motion. You see slaves tending the fires of the bathhouses, legionaries sharpening their blades in the forge's glow, poets reciting verses in the shade of the porticos. And you know that even in this empire of stone and iron, Prometheus's fire is never far away. You pause at a small household shrine, the flicker of a tiny flame behind an offering of sweet wine and fresh bread. A quiet prayer to the household gods, but you feel the echo of a deeper story in the glow of that humble flame. A promise that even in the heart of empire, even in the shadow of conquest, the fire of hope and creation still burns. The sun is warm on your face as you walk on the city alive with the hum of life and ambition. You feel the weight of Rome's power in the air, the soft whisper of destiny in every step. And you know that Prometheus's gift has become more than just survival. It has become the heart of empire, the spark of civilization that no god can take away. The eagle's wings still beat against the dawn in the mountains, and Prometheus's chains still echo in the hush of the cliffs. But here in the glow of Rome's hearths and forges, his gift lives on bright and unyielding, a promise of light in the endless night. The Roman streets fade behind you as you wander on the empire's echoes still warm in your chest. But as the sun dips low and the shadows grow long, you feel a different kind of hush settle over the world, a hush that speaks of quiet faith and the flicker of a new hope. You find yourself in a small hidden chapel, its walls cool stone, the air heavy with the scent of wax and incense. The light here is soft and golden, the flicker of oil lamps casting gentle halos on worn wooden beams, and in that glow you sense how the fire of Prometheus has become something different, no longer a challenge to the gods but a promise of light in the darkness. Early Christians gather in the hush, their voices low and urgent as they share the story of a new kind of fire, the fire of sacrifice of faith that cannot be broken. You feel it in the soft hush of their prayers, in the gentle glow of candles lit against the night. Historians still argue whether the early Christians saw Prometheus as a kind of symbol, another who suffered so mortals could know the divine. Some say his story was folded into their own, a quiet echo of defiance and redemption. Others believe the fire of Prometheus was simply too pagan, too bound to the old world to find a place in these new songs of salvation. But here in the hush of this small chapel you feel the weight of both stories, the stolen flame and the promise of light. You see it in the faces of those who gather their eyes, bright with the hope that even the coldest night can be warmed by a single flickering flame. There's a curious tale that clings to these early days of faith, that in some hidden corners, early Christians would light small fires in secret, whispering thanks to the Titan who gave mortals the strength to endure, not as a god, not as a rival to their faith, but as a quiet testament that even in the harshest darkness light can still be found. You watch as a woman kneels before a simple altar, her hands folded in prayer. The light of a single candle flickers against her face, the warm glow softening the lines of worry and weariness. You see how that light steadies her breath, how it becomes a silent promise of hope in a world that has never been gentle. The hush of the chapel feels deep and timeless, the quiet sigh of devotion, a balm against the cold of the world outside. And you know that here in this soft glow, Prometheus's gift has been transformed no longer a weapon, but a comfort. No longer a spark of defiance alone, but a gentle warmth that lives in every prayer, every act of kindness in the dark. You stand there a long time, feeling the weight of centuries in every breath of incense-laden air. The songs of these early believers are soft, almost like a lullaby, and you hear in them the echo of the forge, the whisper of the first stolen flame. A promise that light is not only a challenge, but also a comfort, a promise that the fire will never die. The eagle still circles in the cold mountain dawn, its wings a shadow against the sky. Prometheus's chains still echo in the hush of the cliffs, but here in the soft glow of candles and the quiet murmur of prayers, you see how his gift endures, not just in the forging of empires, but in the simple courage to keep the darkness at bay. You leave the chapel as night deepens, the last light of the sun a soft glow on the horizon. The stars begin to prick the sky with points of cold light, but you carry the warmth of that small flame in your chest, a quiet promise that no matter how cold the night, there will always be those who keep the fire alive. The world outside is dark, the hush of the night deep and still. But you walk with steady steps, the memory of that quiet chapel aglow in your heart, and you know that even when the gods rage, even when the eagle's wings beat at the dawn, the gift of Prometheus will never be forgotten. The night air grows colder as you leave the glow of the small chapel behind, the world hushed and watchful, under the endless sprawl of stars. You feel the chill settle into your bones, but in the quiet you carry the warmth of that single flickering flame, a reminder that even in the deepest darkness there is always a spark waiting to be born. You wander on your footsteps soft in the frost-dusted grass until you find yourself at the edge of a narrow lane. The smell of iron and wood smoke drifts to you on the night air, and you see a small workshop nestled among the stones, its doorway half hidden by tattered curtains, the faint glow of candlelight slipping through the cracks. Inside you see them alchemists bent over chipped wooden tables littered with glass vials and tarnished crucibles. Their eyes gleam in the soft light hands, moving with the restless hunger of those who will not rest until the world's secrets yield to their touch. You feel the quiet crackle of something more than curiosity here, something older, something that tastes of Prometheus's fire. Historians still argue whether these early alchemists were truly heirs to the Titan's legacy, or if they were simply dreamers, their heads full of golden dust and impossible promises. But you see it in the glow of the coals in their small hearths, in the faint smile that curls at the corner of an old man's lips as he watches a dull metal begin to shine. They speak in low voices of transmutation and eternal life of gold spun from lead and water that can heal all wounds. You watch as one of them holds a tiny flame to a crucible, his breath soft and measured. The glow of that spark is small, but it feels like a heartbeat in the hush of the night. There's a curious tale they share in this flickering glow of how some claimed Prometheus himself once walked these shadowed halls of alchemy, his chains hidden beneath a cloak of midnight blue, whispering secrets of fire and transformation to those who dared to listen. You wonder if it's true, if the echo of his chains can still be heard in the soft sigh of bellows and the quiet hiss of molten metal. The room smells of strange herbs and charred copper, the air thick with the alchemist's dreams. You watch them measure powders with careful fingers, their eyes bright, with the same defiance that once led a Titan to steal fire from the gods. You feel the weight of those dreams in the hush of the workshop, the quiet promise that even the smallest flame can become a star. You pause by a battered table, the wood scarred with centuries of work. A small flame flickers in a bronze dish, the light soft and steady. You see in that glow the echo of every forge, every hearth, every quiet moment of creation that has come before. And you know that here in the hush of the alchemist's labours, Prometheus's gift burns as bright as it ever did. The world outside may belong to kings and emperors, to priests and thunderbolts, but here in the flicker of a single flame mortals claim a power older and deeper than any crown. You feel it in the slow measured breath of the alchemists, in the soft hush of glass and gold. The night deepens and you see the shapes of their dreams etched in the shadows, lead turned to gold, sickness turned to health, darkness turned to light. They speak of the philosopher's stone of eternal life and endless wisdom, but in the glow of that small flame you see the truest magic of all, the quiet defiance that says, even in the shadow of the gods, mortals will shape their own destiny. Prometheus' chains still echo in the cold cliffs of the Caucasus, and the eagle still comes with every dawn. But here in the hush of the alchemist's workshop, you hear another echo, one that says the fire of hope and transformation will never be snuffed out. You leave the workshop as the first pale hint of dawn begins to glow on the horizon. The alchemists still bent over their flickering fires. You walk with the soft warmth of their dreams in your chest, each step a quiet promise that the light will never be lost. The night is ending, but the spark remains soft and stubborn, a testament to the gift Prometheus gave. And you know that even as the eagle circles in the cold dawn, even as the world spins on in the hush of history, that small defiant flame will always find a way to burn. The last traces of night linger in the sky as you wander on the horizon, just beginning to glow with the promise of dawn. You feel the soft hum of the earth under your feet, the quiet breath of a world that is always remaking itself. And in that hush, you sense a new rhythm, a restless music that speaks of rebellion, of poetry, of flames that refuse to die. You find yourself in the company of those who have taken up Prometheus's name as their own. The romantics, poets and dreamers, wanderers who walk the edge of dawn and dusk. Byron and Shelley, their voices bright with defiance, their words woven with the echo of the forge. You hear them in the hush of the night, their laughter and sighs tangled with the soft rush of wind. Historians still argue whether these poets truly believe they carried the spark of Prometheus in their hearts, or if it was simply a banner for their restless souls. But you see it in the fire of their eyes, in the way their words crackle and glow like embers in the dark. You stand beside a flickering candle, the air thick with ink and the scent of damp earth. Byron leans over a battered notebook, his eyes bright and fevered. His quill dances across the page, each stroke a quiet act of rebellion. He writes of chains and eagles, of a titan's endless agony, but also of the light that will not be silenced. Shelley. His words, a soft counterpoint, speaks of hope and of the gentle hush of the dawn. His voice is low and insistent, each word a promise that the darkness is never the end. You feel it in the hush of his verses, the echo of Prometheus's fire, turned from a cry of pain to a song of gentle, stubborn light. There's a curious tale they share over the rim of their coffee cups, voices hushed in the flicker of the candlelight, that Byron in his restless wanderings once stood on a lonely cliff and felt the echo of the Titan's chains in the hush of the wind, that he heard the eagle's cry in the crash of the waves below, and felt in that wild moment the fierce joy of defiance. The poets speak of Prometheus not just as a titan bound to a rock, but as a symbol of every soul that dares to dream, of every heart that refuses to bow. In their verses, the eagle becomes a metaphor, the chains a melody that weaves through every line. You hear it in the soft rustle of parchment, the hiss of the candle's breath, Prometheus's story reimagined, reborn. You see them lean close over their verses, voices low and urgent. They speak of revolution, of the power of words to crack open the world. You feel it in the hush of the night, the weight of every poem, every quiet promise that the fire will never be lost. The room is small, but it feels vast, the air alive with the pulse of dreams. You see the glint of the candle in Byron's eyes, the quiet ache of longing in Shelley's sigh. And you know that in their verses, in the quiet music of their defiance, Prometheus's gift has found a new home. The eagle still circles in the cold dawn, its cry sharp and insistent. Prometheus still endures on his lonely peak, the chains cold and unyielding. But here in the soft glow of the poet's candle, you see how his story has become a song, a quiet echo in the hearts of those who will not bow. You leave the poets to their verses as the dawn breaks the sky, painted with soft light. The world outside is waking, the hush of the night giving way to the gentle hum of a new day. But you carry the echo of their words in your chest, the soft glow of a candle that will not be snuffed out. You walk on your steps, steady the memory of that small room warm against the cold dawn, and you know that even as the eagle's wings darken the sky, even as the chains echo in the hush of the cliffs, the song of Prometheus lives on, bright and unyielding, a quiet promise in every breath of the morning air. The soft light of dawn grows stronger as you walk on the hush of the night, fading beneath the gentle murmur of a waking world. The roads wind on dusty and bright, and you feel the steady pulse of the earth beneath your feet, each step a quiet testament to the fire that still glows in mortal hearts. You find yourself in the hush of a small workshop, glass and copper glinting in the morning sun. The room is filled with the soft murmur of voices, the measured hiss of steam and fire. Here in the glow of oil lamps and the bright shimmer of chemical flame, you see the spark of Prometheus reborn, no longer a stolen ember, but a flicker of knowledge that shapes the very world. The alchemists have become chemists, the dreamers of old now scientists with quiet smiles and restless hands. They measure and mix, coaxing secrets from glass vials and retorts, the soft crackle of Bunsen flames, a quiet hymn to the power of Prometheus's gift. You feel it in the air, this bright, fierce hunger to know, to build, to understand. Historians still argue whether these new seekers of knowledge truly carry the echo of the Titan's defiance, or if their work is simply the endless curiosity of the mortal soul. But you see it here in the gentle glow of a flame dancing blue and steady on the lab bench, in the soft, determined murmur of a young woman adjusting a telescope to trace the faint light of distant stars. There's a curious story whispered among these bright-eyed seekers that in every laboratory there is a hidden echo of the forge, a memory of that first flicker of light stolen from the gods. That every spark of discovery is a promise, a challenge, a tiny defiance whispered in the hush of the night. You watch as a young scientist leans close to a microscope, her breath fogging the cold glass. You see the flicker of understanding in her eyes, the quiet delight of a mind that will not rest. The eagle may still come, the chains may still echo in the hush of the mountain, but here in the bright light of the laboratory, Prometheus's fire glows unbroken. The world beyond these walls is changing factories, belching smoke into the sky railways, lacing the earth with iron threads. You see the pulse of engines, the bright arc of electricity crackling like thunder in the night. And you know that this too is the echo of that first gift, the way fire and defiance have become the heartbeat of an age. You walk through the city's tangled streets, the air alive with the roar of factories and the bright unending hum of invention. The scent of coal smoke and oil clings to your skin, but you feel no fear in it, only the quiet thrill of a world remade. Everywhere you look there is fire in the glow of street lamps that banish the night, in the bright hiss of steam engines, in the warmth of bread baking in the heart of a crowded tenement. Prometheus's gift has become something new, no longer just warmth and light, but the heartbeat of progress, the spark of every dream that says the world can be more than what it was. You see it in the bright eyes of children peering into shop windows lit by electric glow, in the gentle hush of old men who remember when the night was something to be feared. The eagle's wings still beat in the cold dawn, and the chains still echo in the hush of the cliffs. But here in the bright glow of invention, and the quiet murmur of discovery, you see how the gift has grown, how it has become the light that shapes the future, the warmth that refuses to be stolen back. You pause at the edge of a railway platform, the trains whistle, a low mournful sigh in the morning air. The steam billows like breath, bright and warm in the chill. You see the reflection of the first forge in the polished brass, the glow of every hearth in the bright red eye of the locomotive. And you know in that hush before the train's thunder that Prometheus's gift lives on. Not just in the bright glow of electric lamps or the measured hum of engines, but in the quiet promise of every mortal heart. In the hush of discovery, in the soft sigh of understanding, in the gentle hush of dreams made real. You step back from the platform as the train roars by, its windows bright with the glow of 1,000 quiet promises. The eagle still waits in the dawn, the chains still echo in the hush of the mountain, but you walk on each step a quiet testament to the fire that will not die. The morning light grows strong and golden as you walk on the world bright and alive beneath your feet. The city hums with the quiet power of invention, the roads pulsing with the movement of mortals who carry Prometheus' gift in every breath they take. You feel the echo of it in your own chest, a soft glow that will not be silenced. But even here in the bright rush of the modern world, you know that the story is never truly finished. The eagle still circles in the hush of the dawn, the chains still rattle in the quiet spaces of your heart. And as you walk, you feel that echo grows stronger, a final quiet reverie that whispers of the endless echo of Prometheus's chains. You pause at the edge of a quiet park, the grass soft and bright in the morning light. Children laugh as they chase each other through the dew-damp grass, their breath bright puffs of cloud in the chill. You see the soft glow of their laughter, the bright spark of curiosity in their eyes, and you know that here too Prometheus's gift has taken root, quiet and gentle but unbreakable. The wind stirs through the trees and you hear it, the faintest echo of chains, soft as a sigh. The eagle's cry, distant but unforgotten. You stand there feeling the weight of every step you've taken, every breath you've shared with those who have carried the fire forward. Historians still argue whether Prometheus's punishment was ever truly lifted, whether Heracles' arrow found its mark and set the Titan free, or if he endures still silent and steadfast in the cold shadow of the mountain. But here in the hush of the morning, you feel the answer in your own breath that freedom is not a matter of chains alone, but of the light you carry in the dark. There's a gentle, half-remembered story that lingers in this final hush, of how some say that Prometheus, in the quiet of his endless watch, learned to find solace in the stars, that each night he would look up at the sky and see the flicker of mortal fires reflected in the cold brilliance of the heavens, and in that endless hush he found not pain but a quiet peace. You feel it now in the hush of the park, in the bright laughter of the children, in the soft sigh of the wind. The endless echo of his chains is not just a song of pain, it is a lullaby of endurance, a quiet promise that the fire he gave will never be lost. The eagle still comes with every dawn, and the chains still echo in the hush of the cliffs. But here in the warm glow of the morning you know that Prometheus's gift has become something more than a single stolen spark. It has become the heartbeat of a world that will not bow the quiet breath of those who dare to dream in the face of the gods. You stand there a long time, feeling the sun warm your skin, the soft hush of the wind in your ears. The world is bright and full of promise, the weight of the night lifted in the quiet glow of the day. And in that glow you feel the endless echo of Prometheus's final whisper, a promise that the fire will never die. You take a breath steady and sure, and you know that the story will go on. In every forge, in every candle, in every quiet act of defiance and hope, in every breath you take, in every step you walk, the fire of Prometheus lives on, bright and gentle, unbroken and unbowed. The children laugh in the hush of the park, the eagle's shadow already fading in the bright light of the day, and you walk on the echo of Prometheus's chains, a quiet music in your heart, a final promise soft and sure that the fire he gave will never be stolen back. The day stretches out ahead of you long and bright beneath the quiet hush of morning. You feel the warmth of the sun on your face, the gentle whisper of the wind in your hair. The world is alive and still, every breath a soft promise that the night is past and the light will always return. You pause a moment, letting your eyes drift over the gentle curve of the hills, the hush of the trees in the soft light. There is no hurry here, no rush of footsteps or thunder of wings, just the slow, steady rhythm of a world that remembers and forgives. The weight of your journey softens in your chest, each step a quiet echo of the stories you've shared, the gentle lullaby of the forge and the chains. You let the hush of the morning cradle you, each breath a small act of grace. The wind hums low and sweet in the trees, and you feel it in your bones, a lullaby older than any story, a promise as soft as the flicker of a candle in the dark. The world is awake, but you are drifting, held close by the soft rhythm of the earth, the quiet echo of dreams that linger like smoke in the dawn. Let the hush carry you now, gentle and slow each breath, the promise that you are safe, that you are warm, that you are home. Close your eyes. Let the last echoes of Prometheus' chains fade to a whisper, soft as a lullaby in the hush of the world. Rest easy, friend. The fire will always be there waiting for you in the quiet dark.